Hi guys, you've been Central here and welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be reviewing the first episode in the new Doctor Who season, Series 14, or Season 1 to what the rebranding of BBC has decided to call it, with the kind of new companion team of Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor and Millie Gibson's Ruby Sunday. Obviously they first met up in the Church and Ruby Road Christmas special, but this was the first one of their new series together, and yeah, I think it's a good one to start with. So yeah, if you do enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing, as that does really help me out and make me know that people want to see more stuff like this. But yeah, getting into it. So for Space Babies, for kind of a quick overview, the Doctor and Ruby they start off and they do that sort of impromptu sort of travel to different places. They travel back in time quickly to like prehistoric age. Just the Doctor showing off the TARDIS basically, which I always love. I always love the TARDIS. Speaking of which, I still think the TARDIS interior is brilliant. I think it's really nice as an interior. I think it's quite a nice spacious one, quite clean, which is quite nice. Still don't think it's as good as the Capaldi TARDIS. Personally, I think the Capaldi TARDIS still is at the top. It's the pinnacle of TARDIS design, but it's brilliant design. The console's cool. I love it quite a lot. So yeah, Millie Gibson, and then they do this sort of impromptu sort of butterfly effect, and she changes into a different race because she steps on a butterfly, but the Doctor kind of saved the butterfly from dying, so it went back to life, and I think that was just quite a funny joke. Though it was a bit weird that he managed to use his regeneration energy to heal the butterfly. I don't really think the Doctor could do that, but aside from that, it was an okay joke. Just as, kind of show that whole butterfly effect thing, and then he makes a passing reference to the fact he's going to need to fix the butterfly filter on the TARDIS console, which I thought was quite amusing. But then they land in the actual location of the set, and it's this kind of space station, and they're kind of moving around the space station, and then they come up to, they find the monster of the episode, who's this kind of bogeyman who chases them, and they run away. Then the Doctor has this whole thing, he's like, oh, I don't know why I've run away, I don't know why have I run away from this new monster. And I must admit, I didn't really understand that aspect of it, because I couldn't understand what he was trying to say. He kind of said before, oh, it's not a monster, it's just a creature, something you haven't met yet, a person you haven't met yet. But then he was complaining that, he was wondering why he'd run away, and I thought that was a bit confusing, considering the Doctor does run quite a lot from threats. So that didn't really make too much sense to me, but it does drive the narrative later on, so I can understand why they did it. But still, I just feel like it's not unusual for the Doctor to run away from something, so I don't understand why he was trying to be like confused why he ran away. Anyway, they went up to the main station, and then they do the kind of, I think because this is supposedly series 1, they do the sort of like explain who the Doctor is, and that sort of like give comments about his past. They show Ruby looks out the window for the first time, very akin to Rose at the end of the world looking at Earth. Ruby's looking out into space. Then the Doctor kind of explains the perception filter, the fact that he's the last of the Time Lords, all the sort of basic stuff, just to kind of get viewers to kind of get an understanding of who the Doctor is if they haven't watched beforehand. Or also there was a little bit of stuff just to kind of tell viewers maybe what had happened if they'd switched off in Jodie Whittaker's season, and if there were viewers who were coming back who'd stopped watching when Jodie Whittaker was the Doctor, and just generally just making sure everyone was kind of at the same place, knowing where the Doctor's at in his life, that sort of thing, which was, it was fine for what it was. Then they get to the most important part of the story. The space babies arrive, and it's a mental concept. Personally, I think it's mad. I think it's such a funny but weird concept in of itself. I always think watching the episode, I always quite thinking with this one, it's one of those key episodes where it's kind of like, can you imagine it was not Ncuti's Doctor and it was, you know, Capaldi or Christopher Eccleston or like Colin Baker's Doctor, Sixth Doctor doing it. I think it would be such a weird story. For his Doctor, it works, I think, because I mean, it's obviously he was in the episode, so you can tell. But I also just think it sort of gelled with his personality a bit. I must admit, throughout the episode, he was good. Still not fully convinced on him being like the strongest of Doctors, but I think he held it quite well. I thought he played him decently enough in this episode itself. I think Millie Gibson was really strong in this episode. I really liked her in this one. Oh, and for the babies, I thought the babies looked weird because I think they might have been CGI, so they looked kind of weird and uncanny. But I could be wrong there. But they just sort of, every time we look at them, obviously because they're speaking, there was like sort of like you're watching it and it's kind of like, okay, this is a bit strange. But yeah, the Eric was quite good, and the captain, she was very good, and they were quite like they were babies, but also quite adept at controlling the ship that had been kind of stuck, and they were having to control it. Anyway, they then go on later to meet the Nana character, and she's brilliant in it. The Nana character's great, and she sort of turns out then later on to be revealed to be a human, and she then explains to the babies, to the Doctor and Ruby, what's kind of going on in the ship and why everyone's disappeared and all that thing. And I think that was nice, and it put some real stakes behind the episode. Sort of realised, well, there's no one coming now, they've all left, that's why the babies are stuck on this ship, is because there's no one there, which I thought was put a bit of a sad stake on it, and it was done quite well and that sort of thing. But then obviously there's this key sort of, well, what is the bogeyman, and they kind of try and think about the bogeyman, but within this they then quickly kind of move back to the idea of Ruby's mum, and there's like a scene where the Doctor's talking about the memory, and there's snow falling down, and I'm filming this retroactively, so the whole season's out now, so if you've watching this, I assume you'll have seen the whole series, so I obviously, like the other viewers, will know who Susan Twist's character is, who was in this episode as one of the crew members that left, and also they'll know about the snow. It doesn't really make sense why it's there, to be honest. Equally, I don't really know, because I believe in this one the memory changes to her pointing, but that wasn't what happened originally, which doesn't really make sense in my opinion. But in this one, still the mystery is kind of like, oh, what's going on? And it's sort of like, it's the first episode, so they're still kind of just laying that groundwork and that foundation, so it's not too bad. Then there's like, then they obviously have the impromptu sort of, the Doctor goes to try and stop the boogeyman, and then Ruby tries to help him, and one of the children, Eric, goes down to save them because of something that Ruby said, to not be afraid and face your fear, which I thought was quite a funny message. And Eric's fine, they save Eric, and then the Doctor kind of fights the boogeyman, or the bogey monster or something. But then they basically reveal later on that the bogey monster, or the bogeyman, is actually physical bogies, because in the earlier part in the episode, the babies had snorted like they'd like sneezed onto the cloth all at the same time to blow in their nose, and then they send it down the chute, but that accumulates to create the bogey monster, which I think is really weird. But equally a kind of funny concept, quite like a weird concept, but quite good in some respects. The only kind of criticism of it was it was a bit weird. Like, it didn't really make sense in some aspects, like why they kind of do this whole, they reveal later on that the bogey monster is also like the babies. It's they're creating a story. You need to, with the children, you always need to have some sort of like villain, or well, not villain, but like a monster or something to scare the children and sort of thing. And it just didn't. I just thought that was a bit like, okay, but how has this created the bogey monster, and why has it used the bogies? It was. I don't know if I thought it was super satisfying as a as like an explanation, but it worked well enough, and I think the Doctor played it quite well of sort of realising that, saving the bogey monster and kind of fixing it. The only criticism of the episode I have comes to the very end of it, the very back end of it, is first, the ship can't move. They made that quite clear earlier on in the episode. It's a space station, so the ship can't fly. And at the end of the episode, they fly the ship because all of the built up poo from the baby's nappies. They use it as like to propel them, and basically they then pan out to the CGI footage of the space station, and it farts and goes in a direction towards this planet. And I was a bit like, so I've watched this whole episode for the payoff of a fart joke, which I was a bit like, I thought I was a bit, I didn't like that. I thought it was a bit childlike. But then the other criticism comes from the idea that they kind of then were like, oh, the babies can't go to their own home, but it's fine, they'll go to this refugee kind of like, I don't know, planet that they'll have to go to. And it was like, okay, but it didn't, I don't know, it just felt a bit like shoehorned in at the end, just kind of, oh yeah, but they'll be fine. It was like, I feel like it would have been a bit more satisfying if they just sort of left it as, oh, the babies can kind of like, now they've all kind of got it, they can stay on the space station, or, you know, they can kind of work on the space station or find their parents or something. But instead they kind of talked about this like refugee planet, and I was a bit like, it just felt a bit shoehorned in at the end. Like, you didn't really fully know how to kind of super satisfyingly resolute it. And I also thought maybe it was a little bit of a political commentary on immigration and refugees and that sort of thing, which is like, that's fine, but I did think it was a little bit tacked on to the end. But that might just be me. I just thought personally, just a little bit tacked on. But overall, I don't think diminished the episode too much. And considering I was a little bit wary of this episode, seeing the title Space Babies, I thought it's a bit of a weird concept. It wasn't too bad, and I did enjoy it a fair amount. So yeah, overall, I'd say it's probably about a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 probably. Yeah, I'll give it a 7 out of 10, I'd probably say. But, so a nice, decent start to the beginning. So if you did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing, as it does really help me out, and it makes me know that people want to see more of this. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider watching another one. But yeah, thank you for watching, and see ya.